Happy Chanukah. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Yontif. So we continue, we left off, concluding the first chapter in Pesachim. Page 20, and the second line. So we said that if you slaughter an animal in the temple, sacrifice, and you find a needle in it for the hand of the kohen and the knife which he cut the flesh, the meat, it remains pure, and the meat itself is impure. So the Gemara asks, "V'abasar tamei." It says the meat is impure. Hai basar diskasher b'mai. How did the meat become qualified to receive impurity, to be susceptible to impurity? The Torah says to be susceptible to impurity, first it has to become moist by liquid. If you're going to say diskasher b'dam because of the blood, that's also one of the 7 liquids that causes something to be susceptible. We learned it earlier. How do we know that the blood of kachim, of holy animals, is ein machshir, does not cause food items to become susceptible to impurity? How do we know this? Remember, it says, you're not allowed to eat blood. You should spill the blood like water. What does he have to teach me like water? He's coming to teach me when do we consider blood like liquid? If it's like water. Water is the principal liquid, but dam, blood, is like liquid when you can spill it out like water. Regular blood of a regular animal you can spill out. But not the blood of a sacrifice, of a holy sacrifice. You can't just allow the blood to spill on the floor. You have to collect it and sprinkle it on the altar. Then that blood does not make it susceptible. So how did this meat become susceptible? You can't say from the blood, its own blood, from the blood, because blood of kachim, of a holy sacrifice, does not make it susceptible. The ella only this kasher b'mashke beis mit b'chaya. Because when you rinsed it out, after you slaughter it and you have to cut it open, you have to rinse it out before you offer it on the altar. The parts you have to throw on the altar, so made the water. So the water that you rinsed it out with, that's what caused the meat to become susceptible to impurity. So now the needle touched the whole meat is susceptible. But no, you can't say that either. Why? Because we learned earlier, Rabbi Yosef said in the name of Chanina, mashki beis mit b'chaya. At the liquid of the place of the courtyard north of the altar where they did all the slaughtering, so those liquids involved in that area, which were the 2 liquids, blood and water, those 2 liquids, not only are they themselves pure, they don't either receive impurity or surely they cannot impart impurity, they also do not cause any food item to be susceptible. So how does this meat become susceptible? You slaughter the animal, you opened up the meat, you're cutting up the meat, and you see a needle there, fine. So if you see a needle, and the needle is impure, but how does the meat has never become susceptible to impurity? Because the blood doesn't make it. Blood of holiness doesn't make it susceptible. The water doesn't make it susceptible because it's holy, it's in the temple. So how does this meat become susceptible to receive impurity? You have to say. Now, earlier we said the Gemara answered that Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina's statement, that mashke beis mit b'chaya, that the liquid in the place where they slaughtered the animals in the Beis HaMikdash does not only is it pure, but it also does not cause any food item to become susceptible, is only adam, only blood. It's only referring to blood, not water. Water, even in the temple, does cause food to be susceptible. But the Gemara doesn't like this answer here. The Gemara doesn't accept this answer. And therefore the Gemara asks. So the Gemara answers, the Ela diskasher b'chibas HaKodesh. Because we hold it in such esteem, because it's so beloved, Kodesh is holy, so therefore it's already susceptible to impurity. It doesn't need any act, it doesn't need any moistness to make it susceptible. Just it's already susceptible to receive impurity. So he says, Eimar, do you want to say the Mahanyale Chibas HaKodesh Lifsule Gofe? If you're going to say that Chibas HaKodesh calls it that it itself, the meat itself, is now susceptible, and now that it touched the needle, it itself becomes impure. If you call it pure, you said tameh. If the Braisa would have said pasul, pasul means it stops right there. It receives impurity, but it only stops there. But tameh means not only is it itself tameh, it could transmit the impurity onwards. It can make a risha, it can make a sheni. That's why the language of the Braisa is tameh. So if that's the case, tifshit, you should clarify, you should answer the question, the boy Rish Lakish, the question Rish Lakish had. He asked, Sarid shel menachas. If you have the menacha, the mincha was made of a flour. So let's say you had a clump of the flour that was dry. You have to mix it with oil, but the oil didn't reach. You had a whole clump of the flour of the mincha that the oil didn't reach. And a tameh touched it. So tzadir shel menachas, a dry part of the menachas. And then a tameh person touches it, so we say, because of chibas HaKodesh, it's also tameh. But the Rabbi Shlakish's question was, do you say it itself is tameh, or pasul, or you say tameh, it also has the power to continue to transmit the impurity to something else. If something touches that dry part, it also becomes tameh, or pasul. So why don't you say from this Beraisa, we have the answer. Because anything that's tameh, because chibas HaKodesh, it's susceptible. Not only do we say that it itself becomes tameh, now it also has the power to continue. In other words, maybe is chibas HaKodesh, is that a biblical thing, or that's like... But either way, since it's chibas HaKodesh, it's an unusual thing, because it was never really susceptible to receive impurity. Maybe it only has the power that it itself becomes pasul and not tameh. It doesn't have the power to transmit it further. Now Tosfos asks, if you're going to tell me that chibas HaKodesh, anything that's sacred, is susceptible to impurity, so what does it mean when you say that the liquids in the Beis HaMikdash are pure and ein machshir? You said not only are they pure, the liquids themselves don't receive impurity or don't impart impurity, but you say they don't cause anything to be susceptible. You don't need to cause anything to be susceptible. Anything that's in the Beis HaMikdash is automatically susceptible because it's holy. So, what's the difference? My nafkamina, they say, well, these waters, these liquids, the blood and the water, or just the blood, or maybe the blood and the water, according to our Gemara here.
Did you ever touch chulin?
No. Oh, chulin dazar. So Tosfos says, yeah. So Tosfos answers, yeah, because there are things that you do bring in nazar chul. For example, there's an obligation the kohanim have to eat the meat, the leftover meat. So the Torah says they have to eat it l'mashcha, l'gdula, like a prince eats it. You have to eat it when you're full. So they had to eat other food first. So by the time they got to the meat, like the Korban Pesach, by the time you eat the meat, you're eating it on a full stomach. So therefore, all the other foods that you brought in. So that was the question. If the food that you brought in was touched by the moistness in the Beis HaMikdash, the blood and the water that's there, does it qualify it? It doesn't qualify it. That's what he's telling us. It doesn't qualify it. But you're right. The food in the Beis HaMikdash itself, the meat in the Beis HaMikdash doesn't need any qualification. Well, let's say bikurim. Tosfos said bikurim.
Oh no, it was a Kodesh. Before they were given, I guess.
Yeah, bikurim is not.
Especially before they were given over.
No, it belongs to the kohen, but I don't think it's kodesh. Bikurim is more like truma. Chibas HaKodesh is kodesh, only sacred. Kachim, yeah, not bikurim. Bikurim is like truma. It's not. So Gemara asks, so why don't you answer the question of Rish Lakish? So Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Shmuel, so Amar Yehuda says, Shmuel, no, not because Chibas HaKodesh. That's not the answer. That's not how the meat became susceptible. Maybe you don't say Chibas HaKodesh. Makes it automatically everything susceptible. But the reason why the animal, the meat of the sacrifice becomes impure by the touch of the needle that you found in it, the meat was never susceptible. Yes, I tell you it is susceptible. How? Rabbi Yehuda Mishmol says, it was an ox of a shlamim. Now shlamim, most of the animal belongs to the owner. Yes, you have to give a portion to the altar and a portion to the kohen, but most of the animal goes to the owner. So the owner wants to make sure, and the skin goes to the owner. Most of the meat goes to the owner. So the owner wants to make sure that everything is going to work out for him. So what does he do? So he makes sure that this ox, this fat animal, goes in the river, and it will drink from the water, and then b'shachta. Then he brings it to the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Because it says they used to drink the animal before they used to shecht it, mashkenes abehem lefnei hashchita, because then it's easy to remove the skin. It's easy to remove the hide, and so it's better for the owner, since the skin and the hide belongs to the owner. So he wants to make sure that everything will be in the best way possible. So and that's also the reason why Chassidim say l'chaim when they fabricate, because before you skin the animal, the inner animal, you have to drink it. You have to give it to drink a little. Then it's easy to shed the hide, the skin.
Here it says cow instead of ox.
Cow, parah, okay. Yeah, you're right. Parah is a cow. Ox is a male, is a female. So cow. So evida benar v'shachta v'adayim mashke tefeich aleh, and it's still wet. So you immediately brought it to the Beis Hamikdash. It's still wet, dripping wet. You slaughtered it, and the water from the water from the river went on the meat. So now the meat is susceptible to impurity. So when the needle touches the meat becomes impure.
So this is an action on the...
No, that's the answer. That's how he's explaining that the reason why it became susceptible to impurity is not because of chibas hakodesh.
It's not.
Not because of chibas hakodesh. Because chibas hakodesh, you would have been able to answer the question of Rabbi Zeliah Shlakish. No, that's not the reason. The reason is because you would actually have liquid that touched it, liquid from outside, not from the liquid of the Beis Hamikdash, liquid from the river. The owner passed the animal through the river in order that the animal should drink from the water, so it would be easy to shed it, to skin it. And meanwhile, the animal is dripping with water. So after you shechted it, some of that water fell onto the meat, so it made it susceptible. So that when the needle touches the meat receives impurity. Then he continues, what if you find the needle? The Braisa says, Nimtzaz b'peresh, if you find the needle in the excrement of the animal, hakal toir, because it didn't touch the meat. By the time when it touched the meat, the animal was alive. Any animal that's alive, anything that's alive cannot receive impurity. The only exception is a Jew. The only creature in the universe, even when he's alive, is susceptible to impurity, could receive impurity. Anything else, it's only in their death they receive impurity. So when the needle passed through the animal while he was alive, it doesn't impart any impurity. The animal was alive. When they slaughtered the animal is dead. It was already they found it in the excrement. It was already in the refuse, so it never touched the meat. That's the Braisa says. Back to Gemara, when they had the parish, when nit melabasar. So he says the question is, why don't we say, first he thought that perish, that the refuse, the excrement has a status of liquid. So let the liquid touches the meat. Why? Why is the refuse? Because now the animal just drank a lot of water. Right? You just said that the owner took the animal to the river. The animal drank a lot of water. So therefore everything is very loose inside. So they let the excrement have a status of liquid, and now the refuse touches the meat. So therefore, the meat should become impure. The Gemara answers. Yeah, he drank a lot of water, but the excrement came out. It's very hard. It's dry. It's not liquid. So, something that's. So therefore, it cannot contaminate the meat. We learned earlier, even meat cannot contaminate meat, whatever. But something dry, it's not liquid, it can't contaminate the meat. That's his answer. Rav Ashi says, even if as a result of all this drinking, the excrement is loose, and it's moist, and it's wet. Nevertheless, the meat is pure. Why? once you reach the excrement, you reach the intestines, it becomes it's no longer has a status of liquid. It stings, it smells. So therefore, it loses the status of liquid.
Why can't we say what we answered before? The liquid dropped from when he was walking through the river. Like we just answered about the meat.
He did, but that's his question. If he just drank a lot of water, the needle was found in the pedish. The needle was found in the excrement. But if the excrement is moist, so the excrement which is now touching the needle, which is now the excrement is touching the meat should become impure. Should impart impurity. Don't forget, a kodesh, you go up till Rabbi, you pass it on. You can go all the way till the 4th degree. So why is the meat pure? So he says, even for one answer was that we're talking about a case where the excrement was dry. If the excrement was moist, then you're right. This is no. Even if the excrement is moist, it would still not impart impurity to the meat, because it's seruach. It's no longer considered liquid. It smells. It's Tana kam der Rav Sheish is a Tana learned in front of Rav Sheish before Rav Sheish. Sheretz metames hamashke. A dead mouse could contaminate the liquid. Mashke metames hakeli, and liquid contaminates the utensil. The keli metames ha'oichel, and then the utensil. So again, the liquid is the first offshoot, is the first child. The keli, the utensil, is the grandchild, the second, the sheni. The keli metames ha'oichel, and the keli contaminates the food, which is the third. Ha'oichel metames hamashke, and the food contaminates the liquid. In Lamadna we learn shalish tumis b'sheretz. It says 3 tumis coming out of a sheretz. In other words, a sheretz, which is a source of impurity, has the power to contaminate 3. So the Gemara says, there are three types of people. Those who know how to count and those who don't. The Gemara says you just listed 4. On the Arbain, what do you do? 3. You just the liquid, the utensil, the food, and the liquid. That's 4. A 4th degree. A great-great-grandchild of the dead mouse. What are you telling me 3? The Gemara says, goes mashkin dereisha. Take out, cut out mashkin dereisha. Say, sheretz, it touches the utensil touches the food, and the food touches the mashkin.
Mashkin isn't metame, right?
Which, not metame.
Isn't mashkin not metame kelim?
Oh, we'll see in a second.
End of yesterday.
We'll see in a second.
What does it mean just take it out?
In other words, a mistake. Yeah, you have to edit it.
Okay.
It's not what the Braisa says. The Braisa says 3, because he himself says 3. So obviously it's a mistake. You have to take out. Why are you cutting out the first mashkin, maybe the second mashkin? So he says, that's exactly what he said. There's no tana that holds a biblically liquid could contaminate a utensil, unless it's the liquid of a zav or zava, the spit, but the saliva of a zava. But other than that, liquid itself that became tameh from a sheretz, a rishon l'tumah cannot transmit the tumah to a utensil. A utensil could only become tameh, a utensil or a person could only become tameh by a avatumah, a source of impurity. So the liquid that touched the dead mouse cannot, in turn, further transmit the impurity to a utensil. That's why you have to cut out the first one. Elo Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is the only one. The only opinion we found that was Rabbi Yehuda, but that was the original opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that biblically liquid could transmit impurity to everything, not only to other food items, but even to utensils. But then we proved that Rabbi Yehuda changed his mind. Rabbi Yehuda agrees. So there's the single Tana in the world that holds that liquid has the power, tulda of liquid, the Rishon has the power to impart impurity to a kid. And what's a simon to remind you that's so? Nizais, a beer. Because how do you make beer? First, you have the pot. Then you put in the pot the hops or the barley, whatever you put in. And then you add the water, the liquid. That's the braisa. The braisa is first you have the pot. In other words, the dead mouse touched the utensils. Then you add the food. Then the utensil contaminated the food. And then you add the water. The food contaminates the liquid, and that's what he means, 3. 3 degrees of impurity, a child, a grandchild, and a great-grandchild. Rishon, Sheni, and Shlishi, and that's it. Then it stops there. So the Avatuma, the Sheret, has the power to go all the way to a Shlishi. But again, how do you go to a shlishi? It's also not universal. I mean, depends if it's truma, if it's chulin. Rabbi Kiva says even chulin can go to a shlishi. But we hold that chulin only stops at a sheni. Rabbi Kiva says yitame, that the food contaminates a shlishi. Nan Hassam, we learned over there, sheretz and nitma betanur. A sheretz, a dead mouse that became tamei because it was that was found in the tanur, found in the oven. It was hanging in the oven, suspended in the oven. So a tanur, which is an earthenware. Earthenware is unique. A metal, the utensil can only receive impurity through contact, through touch. Earthenware, it's not the touch that makes it impure, it's just being in the atmosphere of the earthenware. If it's inside the atmosphere, even if it's hanging, the earthenware, the oven becomes impure. So a sheretz, was found in the atmosphere of the tanur. The bread in the oven is considered a second degree of impurity. Why? Because the tanur, the oven itself, is the rishon, is the first. And now the bread sitting in the oven is touched by the oven, becomes a second degree. Shame. Because the oven is first, is the child, the offshoot of the Av, of the father of the source, and the tanur in turn imparts impurity to the bread. Rabbi asked question to Rabbi, let's look like Tana command the moli tumedami. Why don't you say, if you're saying that a earthenware is unique, that if just being in the atmosphere, it already imparts impurity to the oven. It hasn't even touched the oven. The dead mouse never touched the oven. Why is the oven pure? Because you say as if it fills up the whole oven. Even though it doesn't touch it, we look at it as if the whole oven is filled with the dead mouse, as if it touched it. So if that's the case, if the mouse is filling up the whole oven, so why don't you say the mouse is directly touching the bread? So the bread is a rishon, not a sheni. It's not a second degree, a secondary tumah.
The word by the sheretz is not touching the oven at all.
Not touching the oven at all. It's just hanging in the air, suspended in the air.
So it's like an oil.
That's the unique about a earthenware. It's not metame from touch. It's only metame from the aver. Metal is only by touching, contact. Here it's the exact opposite. It's not by contact, it's being in the... If you touch it from the outside, it's nothing. A metal utensil you touch from the outside, it's tameh. The only way a earthenware can become tameh is if it's inside the keli, and even if it doesn't touch it. So it's the ear, it's the atmosphere, it's being in the atmosphere of the keli. So since you consider the being in the atmosphere, so it means as if the whole thing is filled, as if it touched it. So why don't you say the sheretz as if it's touching directly the bread? So why is the bread a second degree? The bread should be a first degree. So he answered, so Rabbi answered, no, it doesn't make sense what you're saying. Because the Tanya, we learn in the Braisa, you would think that if that's the case, it's not only the bread. Maybe all the kalim should be metameh. Let's say there's another vessel, another utensil inside this large earthenware. Inside this oven, there's another pot sitting there. So you would think that the pot should become tameh. Right? Talmud Loimer, so we say, the pasuk says, Kol asher b'teicha yitma, anything that's inside the earthenware becomes tameh, and then the Torah says, v'samachle, immediately the Torah says, mikola oichel, only food. He spells out only food. What's inside the oven? Only food that's inside the oven becomes tameh. Oichel metame ma'avrik lecheres. Only food becomes tameh. Ve'ein kol hakelim metame ma'avrik lecheres. If you're going to say that we consider as if the mouse fills up the whole oven, as if it touches the oven. So if that's the case, why does the Torah exclude utensils? If the sheretz is touching the oven directly, so anything that's in the oven is also being touched by the dead mouse directly. So if there's a utensil, a sheretz, is an avatum, is a source of impurity, and has the power to make a utensil impure. The Torah says no. So from this we understand that it's unique about earthenware. The Torah says if it's in the ear of the earthenware, the earthenware becomes tameh. But not the dead mouse is touching everything in the oven or in this earthenware. No. It's only the earthenware that becomes tameh. Now the earthenware, whatever the earthenware is touching, is a second degree. Well, a utensil as first degree cannot make another utensil impure. Only an avatum, only a source of impurity could make a personal utensil impure. So the oven, which is a first degree, cannot impart the impurity, transmit the impurity to another utensil, because it's a sheni. And only to bread, only to food, because the food becomes a sheni, secondary. Okay. To that, so the Gemara weiter. Rav Chizda asked Pischa. He asked the question from Pesach and Meshane, and he answered. What was his question? He says, "Me, I'm Rabbi Yeshua, staying kachas." We learned in our Mishnah, which started this whole sugya. He says, Rabbi Yeshua says that you can burn talui and tmei. If you have truma, you're not sure if you're in doubt whether it's tamei or not. Bread, truma bread, you have to burn before Pesach, before chametz. But you're in doubt whether it's tamei pure or not. And then you have truma, which is certain is tuma. So Rabbi Yeshua says you're allowed to burn them together. You're allowed to burn them together. But tar not. If it's pure, you're not allowed to. Why? Because you're not allowed to contaminate with your own hands. You can't take truma that's pure and contaminate it, with your hands. But totally, since I'm in doubt, therefore he says I can burn it together with tum. So the question is, or Mino, I'll ask you a question because we learned another baraisa. We learned another baraisa. Rabbi Yesi says, "Ein anit ndei." Over there, they were discussing burning. Rabbi Yesi argues that Rabbi Meir says, Erev Pesach, when you have to burn the chametz, you can burn the truma that's pure together with the truma that's impure. Even though you're mingling them together and you're taking it with your hands and causing it truma, the Torah says you're not allowed to cause tuma, impurity, to truma. But he says you're allowed to do it. And Rabbi Yesi argues, and he says, no, you're bringing a proof, but it's not, you can't compare the two cases. The Rabbi Seinu, when the rabbis testified, what did they testify? Yes, the rabbis agreed, allowed you to burn meat that became tameh with an offshoot of tumah. So they allowed you to elevate it, to burn it together with meat, kachim, that became impure from an avatuma, a rishon l'tumah. So they allowed you to elevate it 1 degree. In other words, by taking a shlishi l'tumah and burning it together, mixing it together with a rishon l'tumah. So now you're going to elevate this other meat to a sheni l'tumah. So you're elevating it to a higher degree of impurity. So they allowed you. Why? Because this is impure and this is impure. It's only a question of degree. But they're both in the same category. They're both impure, biblically impure. So therefore they allowed you. Because zeh tameh v'zeh tameh. And even in Mal Hashem and Shanifsel B'Tuyim, even Rabbi Kiva, who adds to it, that you even allowed to take something, take oil that became puzzle. It's not tummy, it's only puzzle. It's a 3rd degree of impurity, of truma. And therefore the truma stops there, the tumah stops there, the impurity stops there. You can no longer transmit it, it's very weak. So he allowed you to take it and to burn it, b'ner shenitma b'tami meis, to burn it in a candelabra that became impure from a tami meis. So now by putting that oil inside that candelabra, now you're elevating it to a rishon l'tumah. So he allowed you. So allowed you to even take something, or sheni l'tumah, even take something that's puzzle, and to make it tameh. So that's a novelty. Rabbi Kiva takes it a step further. Not only allowed to take a tameh and elevate it to a higher degree of tumah, but at least you started out with tameh. It was a shlishi, but it could still transmit the impurity onwards. So in that case, it was in the same category of the other that you're burning, the other chametz that you're burning. But nevertheless, they're both tameh. But Rabbi Kiva adds, even you're allowed to take a puzzle and elevate it to become tameh. Puzzle itself was impure, but it couldn't impart impurity, couldn't transmit it any further. It was so weak. I'm allowed to elevate the impurity, make it a tameh. Now it could even impart impurity. But at least they were both impure. Is that puzzle a tameh? Rabbi Yosef, I also agree in a case of betruma shenitmaz bevlada tuma. If you have truma that's impure and if it's an offshoot of tuma, I agree with you. If you have 2 trumas and one is tameh because it touched the source of tuma, so it's a rishon, and one is tameh because it touched the vlad, So let's say it's a shlishi, and now by mingling the two together, I'm turning the shlishi into a sheni. I'm elevating. I agree, you can do that. Now you can bring a proof from the testimony of Rabbi Seinu. But how could you burn afilu tluyim? Not only some truma that's pure, even truma that you're in doubt. How could you burn? Why? Because Shema Yavel Yovatari, maybe Eliyah Navi will come and we'll say it's pure. In other words, maybe it's pure truma. How can I take pure truma and violate a biblical prohibition? The Torah says I'm not allowed to take with my own hands and cause impurity to truma. Well, Meshani, he answered, Rabbi Shimon, believe it, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yisrael, believe it, Rabbi Yehuda. He answered that there's two opinions, an argument according to Rabbi Yeshua, what Rabbi Yeshua said. There's the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, there's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. What are we referring to? Tanya will learn the Braise, Yud Dalish Choliyas B'Shabbos, like this year, this coming year. Pesach, Erev Pesach will be on Shabbos. So when do you burn the chametz? When do you get rid of the chametz? Friday. So he says, Mevayid is hakel from the Shabbos. You have to get rid of the chametz before Shabbos. You can't burn it on Shabbos. With surfing and you burn trumas, tameyas, teluyas, atayas, even Amer holds you burn everything together, like Amer and our Mishnah. Everything together. Since anyway you're going to burn them, you're getting rid of it, you're burning it, so who cares if it becomes tamei or not? Anyway, it's out. It's out. So you mingle it all together. There's no prohibition in this case of causing impurity to truma that's pure, because you're burning it anyway. You're getting rid of it anyway. Rabbi Yossi argued. Rabbi Yossi says, no, you have to burn a separate pile of fire, a separate fire for the truma that's chametz that's pure. The truma that's you're in doubt, it has to be separate, because I can't mix it with the tameya. I can't mix it with the pure, because maybe it's tameh. So I'm going to be causing the pure tameh. I can't mix it with the impure. Maybe it's tar. Maybe Eliyah Navi will come and tell me it's pure. So therefore, it has to be burned separately. That's what Rabbi Yossi understands. Rabbi Yeshua. Now, Rabbi Shimon says no. Rabbi Yeshua, they don't argue al Torah al Tmeish and Seifin. Yes, you're right. Torah and Tmeya you can't mix. Truma, which is absolutely pure, and Truma, which is absolutely impure, you can't mix the two, even if you're burning it for Pesach. And also they agree, everyone agrees, even Rabbi Lezer agrees that you burn Tluya and Tahira, you could burn together. Why? Maybe it's Tameh. Yeah, but since I don't know for sure it's Tameh, it's not obvious that it's Tameh, we're in doubt. And you have to get rid of it anyway, you're burning it anyway, you can't do anything with it anyway. So therefore, we don't mind. What's the argument in Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua? What are they arguing? Ala tluya v'ala tmeya. Are you allowed to burn tluya and tmeya? Tmeya, which is obviously impure. Tluya, maybe it's too pure. So that's an argument. Rabbi Lezer says, zuba atzma, you have to burn them separately. Rabbi Yeshua says, shtein ka'achar. You can burn them both together. So therefore, it's not a contradiction. Our Mishnah that says that you can burn Tluya and Tluya together with Tameya, that's Rabbi Yeshua's opinion. That's Rabbi Shimon, the way Rabbi Shimon understood Rabbi Yeshua. And when we learned the Braise that you have to burn them each separately, that's Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Who's the author of our mission? Rabbi Yossi is the one who's arguing with Rabbi Meir. He's the one who's saying that Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua only argued in the case of if you're allowed to burn the doubtful truma, that's tameh, and the certain truma, that's tameh. But if it's certainly pure and certainly impure, you're not allowed to mix the two, even when you're burning it for Pesach. So Rabbi Yossi contradicts himself. Because there, Rabbi Yossi, we just brought a Braise, Rabbi Yossi says that you have to burn them each separately. On Friday, before Pesach, if Erev Pesach is Shabbos and you're burning it on Friday, you have to burn each separately. The Truma separately, the Torah separately, the Tluya separately, the doubtful Truma separately, and the Torah and the Tameh, each one separate. The Gemara answers, Hachi Kamer Rabbi Yossi. This is what Rabbi Yossi is saying, Rabbi Meir. Even the most lenient opinion, Rabbi Shimon who argues with me, I hold that they have to be burned separately. But even Rabbi Shimon who says no, that according to Rabbi Yeshua you're allowed to burn the tluya, the doubtful truma, with the tmeya, the mekel who's lenient. Ki mekel, when is he lenient? The most lenient opinion in the world is only betluya tmeya. If it's doubtful together with tmeya, aval b'teira tmeya, to take truma that's pure and to mingle it, to mix it with truma that's impure, that everyone agrees you're not allowed to. There is an opinion in the world that agrees with you, Rabbi Meir, that says you're allowed. Okay, then the Gemara says, Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Chanina, Rami asked from Truma Pesach, from Truma and Pesach. Mishani, and he answered. What was his question? Mi Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Ashtein Kachas. Did Rabbi Yeshua say that you're allowed to burn them? Both together, doubtful Truma that you're doubtful of whether it's tummy, together with Truma that you're certain is tummy. Are you allowed to burn them together? I mean, I'll ask you a question. We learned we already had this earlier. A barrel of Truma, which your doubt, what happened? Did it become tummy? It didn't become tummy. It was lying in an open space, which is more liable for it to certainly become tummy. You should put it away in a hidden place. Don't make it worse. Because if you're going to leave it open, it will certainly become tummy. Now it's only a doubt. Maybe it's pure, and I have to protect it. Was revealed, the pot was uncovered, cover it. Make sure that no mouse should touch it. It shouldn't become impure. Rabbi Shua argues, if it was in a hidden place, bring it out in the open place. If it was covered, open it. Why? Because now I want it to become tummy for certain. Make it, because now then I can burn it. Now I can't do anything with it. Now I'm in doubt. I can't eat it. I can't burn it. I just have to allow it to rot. Might as well just leave it open. Let a mouse touch it, a dead mouse touch it, and like this, I'll be able to burn it. So what do we see from there? All Rabbi Yeshua allowed was to cause it to become tummy. He doesn't say you're allowed to go, why don't you take a dead mouse and touch it and finish? He doesn't allow you to do that. He just allows you, put it in an open place, put it in a place where it's liable to become tummy. But you have no right to take something that's pure, that's maybe pure, and with your own hands take it and make it impure. So why over here by chametz are you telling us you're allowed to mix the two? Mix the tluya, the doubtful chametz, and the doubtful tumah, together with a certain tumah. You're taking it with your own hands and you're causing it tumah. Meshani, and he answered, Rabbi Shimon with Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yisrael with Rabbi Yeshua. You're right, there's two opinions. That Mishnah that says you're allowed to only cause it indirectly, that's Rabbi Yossi, according to Rabbi Yeshua. But our Mishnah that says you're allowed to, this is Rabbi Shimon according to Rabbi Yeshua. You're allowed to even take it with your own hands. And there also, he's saying there also, according to Rabbi Shimon, I would be allowed to take it with my own hands, take a dead mouse and let it touch the tluya, and then that's it. Or just burn it together. You don't even have to wait. Just go ahead and burn the two together. Okay.
We saw a dead mouse on the way here.
Okay, this is a forerunner. You're learning all about mice today. Okay. Rabbi Lazar asked a question, Truma from Truma, and Truma Mshani, the answer. What was his question? Me, Amar Rabbi Yeshua, the Rabbi Yeshua say, Gramein b'yadayim loy, that you're not allowed to cause Truma with your own hands, you're only allowed to cause it. Or I'll ask you a question we learned, we also had this earlier. Chavishal Truma, shenishvre b'gasol, yain, a barrel of Truma that broke on the upper part of the gas, on the upper part of the wine press. So the upper part, you had pure wine. Truma, and it was pure. On the bottom part of the press, you have regular wine, not Truma wine, regular wine. So what's the problem? The problem is that if the wine from the top, now that the barrel broke, it's going to seep, it's spilling downwards. What happens when the Truma mixes with the chulin? What happens when the Truma mixes with the chulin? Now everything will become impure, and you have less than 100, so it doesn't mix. So everything will become, you won't be able to use it. It'll go to waste. The kohen can't drink it because it's now. Oh, the one on the bottom is impure. The one on top is pure. Now you mix the two, so the wine from the top will flow to the bottom. Will all get mixed up. So now the truma will become tummy. If the bottom was pure, it's not a problem. The kohen could drink it. No one else can drink it. It's meduma. You mix truma and non-truma. So if it's 1 in 100, then it becomes nullified. Less than 1 in 100, it all has a status of truma. So give it to the kohen to drink. He has to drink the whole wine, mazel tov. But the problem is that it's tameh. The bottom wine is tameh. Now the truma is tameh. The kohen can't drink it. He can't do anything with it. So you lost all this wine. So he says, it depends. So he says, so what do we do? So he says like this. He says, if you have next to you immediately, you can take, you find a utensil that's pure, and you can save 1 revius, like 3 ounces of wine in purity, then I have no excuse. I'm not allowed to go and cause the wine to become impure. To save the wine in the bottom, I can't take utensils that are not pure and stop the wine, catch the wine. Because then I'm taking with my own hands and I'm causing truma to become impure. By taking a utensil, saving the wine with a utensil that's impure, I'm causing the truma wine to become impure. The Torah forbids me from causing impurity. I have to watch the truma. Make sure I can't. So I can't take it with my hands and make it impure. Because I still have an option. I can save, at least I can save something that's significant. At least I can save 1 revius of wine for Kiddush, for Truma wine that's pure. So therefore I have to let the rest of the wine go, save that little tiny drop of revius, and the rest of the wine, there's no choice. I have to let it flow downwards. It causes one big mess, because now the Truma became impure automatically. I had nothing to do with it. The barrel just broke and it's flowed downwards. The truma is impure. Now it mixes with the wine in the lower part. Now everything is forbidden. No one can drink from it. No one can do anything with it, and it's all lost and gone, and wasted. There's nothing you can do. It doesn't give me the right to take with my own hands and say and cause impurity and truma. But what if I can't? I don't have any pure utensil next to me. Even a small, tiny utensil, I can save anything. So I can't save anything. So anyway, the wine is going to get lost. Anyway, the wine is all going to go down, and it's all going to get ruined. So in this case, we have an argument. You still have no excuse. The Torah doesn't give you a right, even though it's all going to go to waste anyway. Once it flows downward, once it reaches the lower part of the wine press, it's all going to mingle, it's all going to become tameh, and I won't be able to do anything with it anyway. So why don't you at least save it? He says, no, because by saving it, by taking an impure utensil and capturing all the wine before it flows downward, I've taken with my own hands and caused impurity to truma, which the Torah forbids. Rabbi Yeshua argues, Rabbi Yeshua says, Yitamena biyad. No, in this case, you have permission to take it with your hands and capture it with an impure vessel. So we see Rabbi Yeshua says that not only indirectly, even directly, you're allowed to go and cause impurity. Well, Mishani, and he answered, what's the answer? Shaini Hasim, there's the exception of the rule. Rabbi Yeshua in general says you have no right to actively go and take truma that's pure. The Torah says you have to guard the truma. You can't take it with your own hands and cause impurity. Why there did we allow to? Shaini Hasim dike hefset chulin. Because there's loss involved, a huge loss. All the wine on the bottom, it's all going to be ruined. Now it's all mixed together. I won't be able to eat from it, to drink from it. And no one could benefit from it. So it's a waste. So anyway, the truma wine is going to go to waste. So in this case, it's the exception. I'm allowed to salvage the situation by taking an impure utensil and capturing the wine before it reaches the lower wine press.
What was the difference between the tame of taking it in the tame of the bottom part of the...
No, by taking it, I'm saving the bottom part. It shouldn't reach the bottom part. Because I'm taking with my own hands, and I'm taking with my own hands, and I'm causing the impurity.
The bottom part, though, what is?
It's just sitting there. So once the wine reaches there, it's tameh. It happens to be tameh wine.
So why is that any more?
No, but I'm not doing anything. It flows in itself. The barrel broke.
It's tameh one way or the other.
It's tameh one way or the other, but I have no right to go and cause tumah. I'm not causing the tumah. I'm not taking with my own hands. The Torah says you have to guard truma.
But if it's going to become tameh from taking it, then what's the difference between that tameh and this?
Because here it happened passively, and here I'm doing it. I'm causing the tumah.
Well, what's the loss? I mean,
if it goes down, what's the loss?
Yeah.
Because now all that wine is lost.
It's poured on the ground, or it's
No, because it's mixed. Now the wine is mixed. It's called meduma. When you mix truma with non-truma,
Oh.
it all has a status of truma. So the non-kohen can drink it. The kohen can drink it because it's all truma. Nobody can drink it. So it's wasted. You wasted 99 barrels of wine. You wasted it. It's money. The money doesn't grow on trees.
Non-Kohen could drink Tumadika Chulin.
No. Now it has a status of truma.
Before, could he drink it?
Before you can drink it.
It was Tuma.
Yeah, if you're tameh, you can drink it, but tameh dika truma you can't drink. It's holy, it's sacred.
Oh, okay.
Now it has a status of truma, and nobody can drink it. The kohen can't drink it. When the kohen is tameh, he can drink chulin that's tameh. Why not? But and chulin anyone can drink. But here it becomes truma. Only a kohen can drink, and a kohen can drink it when it's tameh. So it's wasted. You can't do anything with it. It's a waste. Maskal Rava asked, Masnisan Nami you can have sedates, but in our case you also have a loss. Because you're telling me you have to make different fires. If you have to burn them separately, the Truma, the Torah, the Tveya, I need more wood, I have to make a separate fire, is also a loss. I'm like, I answer the Rava, no. 99 barrels, you're going to lose 99 barrels, that's a huge loss. Hefsed mu'et, a few pieces of wood, a few coals. Come on, that we don't worry about. We're not cheapskates. That's not lechash. How do we know lehefsed meruba chashel, lehefsed meruba chashel? What's your source? Where do you see this distinction? Tani, we learn the Brais. Chavishal shemen truma shenishru gasal yena. What if it wasn't a wine press? It was an olive press, and you had the same scenario. You have a barrel of truma of shemen, oil truma. That's pure, that broke, and it's heading downward. It's heading to the lower olive press, the lower part which has wine, oil which is impure. So in this case, Rabbi Yeshua agrees. Really, the Gemara doesn't ask. It's really Rabbi Yeshua agrees to Rabbi Lezer. In this case, the same scenario. If you can save a revius of shemen, which is a significant amount, has some significance. If you can save and do it with tara, then I have no right to say with my own hands, I have no excuse to take with my own hands and cause impurity, to capture this oil, not let it flow downwards with impure utensils, because I'm taking with my own hands truma, which is pure, and causing impurity, which the Torah says I have to guard the truma, I'm not allowed to. But if not, I don't have any pure utensil handy, I can't even save a revius. Maybe I have a tiny utensil that's less than a revius. I can only save less than a revius. Everyone agrees. Everyone agrees. Even Rabbi Yeshua agrees that I'm not allowed to salvage the situation and capture the oil before it reaches the lower part of the olive press with impure vessels and causing it impurity. Let it all mingle. Let it all become impure. So Maish Shemen, why is it different? So you tell me shemen is allowed. Why? Because I could use it. It's not a loss. What are you telling me? The shemen is now that it mingles, it's all going to have a status of truma. It's not lost. The kohen could use the shemen. Yes, you can't drink it. You can't use it in your salad. You can't use it to mix it in your salad and your food. But I can use it to burn. The Torah says you can burn it for the Chanukah. You can burn it. You can burn it for your lamp. So it's not a loss. So what's the big deal? Who gives you a right? Who gives you an excuse? Who gives you a right to take it with your own hands? Truma, which is pure, oil, which is pure, and with your own hand to cause impurity. There's no great loss. Yes, maybe you prefer to eat it, but it's no great loss. I can still use it and consume it. So, yayanami, I'll ask you, wine is the same thing. It oil is zalif. You sprinkle the wine to give an aroma, pleasant aroma. Something smells bad. You sprinkle it in the bathroom, you sprinkle it around the house, it's a pleasant aroma. So it's also not wasted. And if you're going to say ziluf lav milsuhu, ziluf, come on, that's not a significant usage. Oil to burn, that's a significant usage. That's value. Use wine for ziluf, the aroma, pleasant aroma, that's, scent as a scent, that doesn't have a great significant value. Really? He's saying a person would rather spend one seller to buy a lug of wine Cheap wine. You don't need expensive wine. Cheap wine is good. Kedem was good. Malaga. You don't need expensive wine. People would spend double the amount, 2 slayim, to use wine, finer wine, to be mezalif, to sprinkle it around for a pleasant aroma. So you see, it has a significant value. The pleasant aroma of wine to give that smell, that scent. So what do
You
you?
can't rescue the wine in an impure vessel.
So no, so
Right?
he's asking.
If you have a pure vessel, you can rescue the wine.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So he says, the Gemara says, the Ramele beklemos.
So just
Oh, one second, I'm sorry. So how's the answer? Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, just because he's smelling it, that has value. I mean,
Yeah, you use it as
it
a
has
scent.
money.
You use it as a scent.
Oh, like
Use it as a
perfume.
perfume.
Oh.
The room to make it a pleasant smell.
okay.
Smell, yeah. And he says people spend double the amount for the drinking wine they spend to use wine, finer wine, more expensive wine to give a pleasant aroma. You walk into a room and there's a scent, very, very, very powerful. So he says, the Gemara answers, the difference to b'chadash, talking about new wine. Our Mishnah, the Brayz is talking about new wine. New wine doesn't have a scent. So new wine is going to go to waste. The barrel that's broke and is heading to the lower part of the wine press, it's new wine. So it's just wasted. I can't drink it and I can't use it for zilov. Zilov is only expensive wine. You're right. Expensive wine has a pleasant aroma. You know, wine connoisseurs, they smell the wine before they drink. You know, it's a whole production. You don't just drink wine. You smell it and you swirl it and you look at it and you know and you taste it. You know, so it's old wine, not cheap, not wine that's new. It doesn't yet have that scent. Frag the Gemara, Varoli Ashna, it still has value. I can store it until it grows old, and then I'll use it for scent. So the Gemara says, also I'm worried. You're going to keep it around, hanging around in the house, by mistaking to come to drink from it. So you have to get rid of it right away. You have to get rid of it right away. In fact, the Gemara Shemen Nami also beitakol. So wine, you're talking about a wine press, which is also, olive oil, olive press. It's also fresh. Maybe also beitakol, if you're going to hold the oil to use it if you're going to hold the oil to burn it, maybe it'll also come with data color. You're saying I'm allowed to keep the oil because I'm going to use it for fuel for my lamps. So it's the same problem. You have oil sticking around. I'm going to use it for my salad. I'm going to use it to eat. So Gemara says that yes, you're right. So how do we avoid that? You have to make sure to put it in an ugly, disgusting vessel. So I'm not going to use it for my salad. It's sitting in a disgusting vessel. But for a lamp, fuel for a lamp, I don't care. I don't need it. It doesn't have to be clean oil, whatever. So you have the same option with wine. You want to use the wine for scent. You want to make sure you're not going to use it to drink. Do the same thing. Put it in an ugly vessel, disgusting vessel. So your mother says, you want to use the wine as a pleasant scent. You're going to put it in an ugly, disgusting vessel. You have to forget. You want to keep it. It smells good. It has to be pristine. Okay. In fact, the Gemara said, this concept, whether we're worried about the color, you're worried about it will lead to an obstacle or not. Not everyone agrees with that whole worry, that concept. I know it's an argument. A barrel of wine of truma that became impure. Beit Shammai says, pour the whole thing out. Pour the whole thing out immediately. Basil says, no, why? Why do you have to pour out? Tas ziluf. The kohen could use it as ziluf. Yes, he can't drink from it, but you can use it as a pleasant aroma, as a scent. So you see that it's an argument whether we're worried about allowing it to stick around. Rabbi Yasi says, it was a later generation. He says, I will decide.
I will balance it.
I will balance the two, and I will say as follows. If you're in the field, spill the whole thing out immediately. The bias in the house, tasazilov, use it for aroma, to sprinkle it around, to give a pleasant aroma. Others say, no, the way he balanced it out, he says, if it's new, tishba chevels, pour the whole thing out. Immediately. If it's old and has a good scent, in other words, if it's new, don't keep it around for so long, because then we are worried that if you stick it around, you're going to end up drinking from it. But if it's old, you can use it immediately. Old wine, ancient wine, you can use it to zila. Amrullah, they said to him, we continue in 21a, Ein achrosh lishis machraz. He says, your third opinion cannot tip the balance between the two. Why not? Usually we have a rule that whenever there's an argument, the third opinion balances out and we follow the third opinion. So Rashi says because Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel never gave their reasons. If they would have said that they're worried about that, even if Beis Shammai would have said that even that you're not allowed to keep it, even if it's old, even if it's in the house, you can use it immediately. He's worried, and he says, nevertheless, you're not allowed to keep it. You have to pour it out immediately and get rid of it because we're worried that maybe you'll come to use it. Or if Beis Hillel says that even if it's new, and even if it's in the field, that you have to bring it to the house, or if it's new, you have to keep it for a long time until it becomes ready to be used as scent. Nevertheless, you're allowed to keep it. You don't have to worry. Then Rabbi Yosef can come and he can balance it too. I'll take one half of Shammai, one half. In this case, I agree with Shammai. In this case, I agree with Hillel. If it's far-fetched that you have to worry because it's old wine and it's in the house and you can use it immediately, then I say Hillel is right. You can use it. But if it's new or if it's in the field, then I say Shammai is right. But they never mentioned that reason. Shammai never breathed a word about that's the reason. Maybe he has other reasons. Hillel didn't breathe a word. So you're saying a third opinion. You're not balancing out these two opinions. You're saying a third opinion. Nothing to do with Shammai, nor with Hillel. Why should we follow your opinion? Why are you any better than Shammai and Hillel? You're a much later generation. That's how Rashi learns. Taisvus learns, no, that clearly is the reason of Shammai and Hillel, even though they didn't spell it out. So what does it mean that you don't follow their opinion? Ein achrosh lishis machraz. So he says the reason is because in their words, Shammai and Hillel never made any distinctions. If Shammai would mention that you have to pour it out not only in the field, but even in the house, not only if it's new, but even if it's old, then you can say that there's a distinction. If you're very worried, a little worried, and he makes a distinction, and he decides not to make any distinction. Or if Hillel would say, you're allowed to keep it, you don't have to pour it out, not only if it's in the house, not only if it's old, but even if it's new, or even if it's in the field, which it takes time to bring it to the house, and you're worried in between, you're going to. He doesn't mention that. So in other words, to both Shammai and Hillel, we don't make this distinction between if you're very worried, it may come to an obstacle or not. To them, either yes or no. They don't make any distinction. So you're coming and making a distinction? It's a third opinion. It's a new opinion. You're not balancing between the two. Why should we take your word over them? Both Shammai and Hillel say that they don't make any distinction. Either you worry, you don't worry. If you don't worry, you don't worry at all. If you do worry, you worry all the time. So,
But in general, Das Shlishi, what does it mean?
no, Das Shlishi is if they would spell out.
What's Hachra?
That's Achra. If they would spell out. If Shammai would make a distinction and says,
I'll bring them to the middle.
Yeah, then I can say yes. So I agree with you in this. I agree with you in this, and so therefore, then you would agree to his opinion because it would be 2 against 1. It would be his opinion and Shammai in that case against Hillel, or him and Hillel against Shammai in that case. Here you're not 2 against 1. It's 1 against 2 because Shammai and Hillel don't make any distinctions. You're making a distinction. It's 1 against 2. Surely we're not going to follow you. Why? You're a later generation. Why should we follow you? Makes no sense. There's a third explanation. Rabbi Hananel says, what he means to say is that we can't follow a student. The Gemara says elsewhere, you don't follow a student in the place of his Rebbe. So he's saying, Das Shlishi, you're the third generation. You're going to be machriya between these 2 great rabbis, Hillel and Shammai? It just happened to be that he was a third generation. But even if you were a second generation, you're the student. The student is going to decide between the Rebbes. Makes no sense. When do we say Dar Shlish Machriya? If it's a peer, if it's someone in their same generation, the same level, so then we would follow his opinion. Okay? Very interesting. You have three Dar Shlishas, you have three understandings of this Gemara. Okay.
So Rashi says you don't know that they think that way.
Yeah.
He says they do, but they still didn't allow themselves to be compromised.
Exactly. They didn't make that distinction. In their mind, it's either or. If you're very worried or a little worried, they don't abide by that. So both of them disagree with Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yosef, who makes this distinction. Anyway, very interesting. Now we've concluded. Let's come to the end of the Pedic. Rabbi Chanin says, "Machloik is the whole argument in Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, whether you're allowed to save the wine that's flowing down, make it impure with your hands." Rabbi Yeshua says you're allowed to. Rabbi says you're not allowed to. The only argument is if it falls into 99 barrels of wine. The lower wine press has 99 barrels of impure wine. But if it's 100 to 1, let's say it's 1 barrel on top and 100 down, it's 100 to 1. Let it go down. Let it become tamei. According to everyone, you're not allowed to make it impure. Why? Because it becomes nullified. 1 in 100 becomes nullified, so there's no problem. The truma will become. You're allowed to drink from it. Now you're right. You're allowed to. It becomes completely nullified. It's like chulin. Everyone can eat from it. Yes, you have to give a barrel to the kohen, but everyone is allowed to eat from it. So what do I care? And you can eat from it in tumah. Who cares? We also learn like that. Chavish and nishbra b'gas al yenim tachtem mei chulin tmein. Moeder Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Lezer agrees, Rabbi Yeshua. Shem yochel atzam and Rabbi is b'tara yatzel. If he can save b'tara, he can say then yatzel. Then he's not allowed to make it impure. If not, hated with the tamah. If not, just let it flow, and you're not allowed to cause impurity with your hand. Because it'll all become nullified. You have no problem. In fact, the Gemara here and also previously. The language. What do you mean? Rabbi Lezer agrees to Rabbi Yeshua. The exact opposite. Rabbi Yeshua says, I'm allowed to cause impurity with my own hands to save the wine. It shouldn't go. He agrees. But if I can save even a revius, which has some significance, if I have a little tiny vessel, I can save impurity, even revius, then I have no right to cause impurity to the whole thing. So Rabbi Yeshua agrees to Rabbi Lezer. What do you mean Rabbi Lezer agrees to Rabbi Yeshua? Rabbi says, Eipich, you're right. You have to read Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yeshua agrees to Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, don't turn it around. You know what we're talking about over here? We're talking about Bekeli Shetechitoid. He's going back on the first case. Bekeli, inside was pure, but the exterior was tamei. For example, if we learned earlier, if a tamei beverage touches the outside of the keli, since it's only rabbinic, so the rabbis wanted to make a distinction, so they said in that case, only the outside of the keli is tamei and the inside is pure. To make a distinction, because anything that's rabbinic, you're not allowed to just go ahead and burn, because biblically it's pure. You can't burn pure truma. So to remind you, it's only rabbinic. So they made this distinction. If it's biblical, anything that touches the outside or the inside, it's all the same. It touches the keli. If a sheder, it's a dead mouse, touches the utensil, doesn't matter the outside, the inside, the whole keli becomes impure, metal utensil. But in the case of a mashke, liquid that touches the utensil, which is only rabbinic, the rabbis say if it touches the outside is impure, the inside remains pure. So we're talking about where the inside is pure and the outside is impure. So I would think, nigzer, we should make a decree. So we're talking about to save it with a pure vessel. What kind of pure vessel are we talking about? Not a vessel that's totally pure. Even if the vessel that you're saving the wine, this revius of wine, is only the inside of it is pure, but the outside is impure. So you would think maybe in this case we should say, no, don't save. You can't save a revius of wine with this type of vessel, because maybe it'll touch the outside, and the whole thing will become impure. So I didn't save anything. So he comes to that's what Rabbi Lezer agrees with Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Lezer in general is very strict. Rabbi Lezer agrees with Rabbi Yeshua, and he says you're allowed to save the revius even with this type of vessel. So when he says Moeder Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshua, he's going in the beginning, the first case, that if you can save a revius, he's saying Rabbi Lezer agrees with Rabbi Yeshua that even if the vessel with which you're saving is only pure on the inside, even though it's pure on the outside, even though Rabbi Lezer says you're not allowed to cause impurity with your hands under no circumstances, you have to let everything become ruined. So maybe over here you should also just let it flow down, because you're in danger, you're at risk. You're at risk that maybe you'll touch the outside and it'll become impure. She says in this case you're allowed to. Why? You're allowed to. He said in this case you could be lenient and you're allowed to. Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. Come on. We finished the first chapter. Have a good Freiliche Chanukah and a good Shabbos.
What if we're uncertain about